Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. Now, this is a solid episode of NXT. I wouldn't call it quite as strong as the preceding week, but there was one segment on this show involving the women's division that got me very excited for the future, and a nice teaser at the end of the show for what's to come in future weeks of NXT programming. So with those two things, I'd still say this was a worthwhile episode of NXT. Ashton, what do you think of it?
Yeah, this was a solid episode of NXT, but I will say it was also probably one of the most flawed episodes of NXT that I've seen in a while. There was some stuff where I could say, oh, this was bad, but it had kind of served its purpose. But there were some things that I do want to get into that I just didn't get, and maybe you'll be able to help to kind of justify or explain the stuff to me that I can't figure out.
Absolutely. Let's give it a shot, and we'll do that in our next segment. Heat of the night. Since you seem like you have a little bit more you want to go into, the only thing I want to say, the only nitpick that I have is Rich Brennan's commentary. He made some really bad flubs on air tonight.
Yeah.
In fact, he came right out when a Tyler Breeze segment was being foreshadowed. He said Tyler Breeze lost a number one contendership match last week to Sami Zayn. Tyler Breeze, I don't even think Tyler Breeze was on the show last week.
He wasn't on the show last week at all.
Yeah, so, I mean, and he made one other embarrassing flub that I can't recollect, but yeah, Rich Brennan, he's been bad before, and me and Ashton have commented on it. The only reason I'm bringing it up again is those flubs were really bad. So,
yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the only time Breeze and Zayn have ever even had a match, a one-on-one match for the number one contendership, Breeze ended up winning it anyway, and it was at NXT TakeOver, the first one.
Exactly. So, Rich Brennan, you're the worst. But with that out of the way, I want to see what you have to say about this episode of NXT, Ashton, seeing as how you did call it probably one of the most flawed you've seen in a while. So, what's on your mind?
Okay. The first one that I absolutely need to get off my chest because it's been bugging me since I saw it and it made me think, good God, is Vince Russo booking this? After the Ascension dominates the All-Americans, Hideo Itami shows up and basically runs out to get slaughtered. Like, I understand that there's this whole fighting spirit thing about Japanese wrestlers, but he at least needs to be booked as if he was an intelligent human being, and that's not something that an intelligent human being does, even after a match, which, if you had watched the match, you would see that the Ascension barely even broke a sweat.
Oh, absolutely, Ashton. I completely agree with you here. I know you were kind of hoping maybe I could fill in the gaps or justify, but this is something where you and I are in complete agreement. Because the justification that commentary offered, I found to be incredibly weak. And that's that, Hideo Itami is in a very emotional place. He's not clear-headed. I mean, you're facing a very legitimate threat in the Ascension. It's okay to be emotional and fight for an emotional cause, in this case, his friend's honor. But it's not going to amount to anything if you don't do so intelligently. So I'm in complete agreement with you here.
To me, what they could have done with this is, as soon as the Ascension pick up the win, let them do their little pose and then cut away and advertise whatever you advertised after this segment happened in the first place. But then throughout the night, you can kind of sprinkle in little segments where Hideo Itami uses his intelligence to separate the Ascension and then beat each of them up one-on-one, rather than trying to run down there like a moron and getting double-teamed.
Yeah, this could have been a great platform to showcase just how cerebral Hideo Itami can be, thus making him a more dangerous competitor. Like, you could have even done it very simply. Like, you had his music play. Don't have him come out. Have the music keep playing. And then have Connor come out and walk up the rampway to try and put Hideo Itami hat on. And then he slides from under the ring and he attacks Victor like guerrilla-style warfare.
I could have seen that. I could have seen that. But either way, I think that it would have made a lot of sense for him to kind of use his intelligence to separate them and gain the advantage. And then next week have them both come out after one of his matches and double-team him. But for him to come out after one of their matches and just get double-teamed makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Completely agree. I think we've exhausted this particular flaw, so what's your next one?
My next one is I don't even know if I would say that it's a flaw. It's just something that annoyed me personally. This whole thing with Mojo Rawley and Tyler Breeze. Like, first of all, why in the world are you, and let's not get mistaken here, CJ Parker is a jobber at this point. So why in the world are you letting CJ Parker get this much offense in on Tyler Breeze even before Mojo shows up? And I understand that it keeps Breeze strong because he did end up winning despite Mojo's presence. But first of all, why is Mojo all of a sudden obsessed with Tyler Breeze? I mean, I get that he might have injured his shoulder, but first of all, I said first of all already. So second of all, at what point did Mojo Rawley stop being hype? I seem to remember literally the last time we saw him, he was cutting a promo talking about how he still stays hype. He didn't look very hype out there to me. And third of all, why is the WWE even trying this? And most importantly, who are the baby faces and who are the heels in this scenario? Is Tyler Breeze the face in this whole thing?
I completely agree with your confusion. I think all of your contentions, I really can't dispute any of them. My two biggest ones, personally, if I could just add my own little 2 cents here. One, what a demotion for Tyler Breeze.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, what happened?
I mean, even commentary says that this guy was so close to the NXT championship, and I've said, I mean, jokingly, of course, Ashton, but it's also a legitimate criticism at the same time. He got screwed out of his one-on-one championship match. It was a DQ finish.
And on top of that, not only was that a DQ finish, but then he didn't get pinned in the Fatal 4-Way, and he hasn't had another opportunity since then. Despite the fact that Sami Zayn, who also not only did he just straight up not even earn the spot in the Fatal 4-Way to begin with, but he didn't get pinned either, and he's had opportunities since then. Breeze hasn't even gotten a shot since then.
Yeah, I mean, even the...
I apologize for cutting you off, but I want to take this a step further. Tyson Kidd, who did get pinned in that match, has gotten an NXT title shot one-on-one since then.
Absolutely. And, just to expound it on Sami Zayn, I know he's on his whole road to redemption and everything, but he just recently lost a match to Titus O'Neil.
Yeah.
So you're not even talking about the strongest contender. And the second point I want to make very quickly before I hand the ball back to you, Ashton, to me in a storyline context, this doesn't even make any sense. I actually was strongly against when I saw it, Mojo Rawley being on TV, to the point where I was close to making it heat of the night, but I wasn't going to bother, because I feel like Tyler Breeze took the shoulder out. You had Mojo giving the very somber promo of, I'm not going to forget who did this to me, and I stay hyped, and having like this grave voice and whatever. I would have kept him off TV for a few weeks. The idea that he comes back so soon after that,
John Cena Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, I was really, really against that, but I don't want to go any further than that. I'm going to hand the ball back to you. Do you want to continue on this, or do you want to go on to your next little problem?
I'll let you make that determination.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can move on to your next problem. So. Okay.
This is the last one, and it's not even really anything to do with, it's not even a real huge problem. This is more like a little tiny nitpick. The post-match interview, not even interview, the post-match promo that Sami Zayn cut on Neville felt very heelish.
It did. Yeah, it did. And honestly, again, Ashton, maybe this is me expecting too much because I am a huge fan of Sami Zayn and what everybody's doing and all that stuff. But this was something else I was against. He just started his road to redemption a week prior, right, and beats Tyson Kidd. Why would you already put him and Neville in the same room together? I'm not saying wait forever to do it, but I was hoping Sami would get a few more wins under his belt on this personal road to redemption before having the confidence, the audacity in a good way to confront Adrian Neville. I felt like this was way too soon for my personal taste.
Maybe that's part of what it made it feel so heelish to me, was that I feel like Sami was almost overstepping his bounds. Like, oh, I won one match, and now, oh man, I'm going to get all up in your grill talking about how I'm going to beat you now, even though I couldn't even beat Titus last week and you just did it.
Yeah. That's a great point, too. Sami Zayn couldn't beat Titus O'Neil. Adrian Neville just got done a successful defense, and since we're talking about it now, we'll just segue that when we get to that actual segment. And now he's feeling all high and mighty, saying, well, I'm going to hold you to that.
What pedestal does he have to stand on?
None. And that was the beauty of the story, though. The fact that he had none and he was going to build one with his own hands. And I'm not saying they've totally ruined that storyline now because that would be way too hyperbolic. But I don't want to say they've cheapened it for me either, but they've definitely taken something away from it for me. That's
Right.
how I'll say it. By rushing this, by having this confrontation, not only having this confrontation, but having Sami Zayn be the one with the almost like indignant, cocky tone, where I feel like Adrian Neville should be carrying
that right there is the problem that I had, was the innate arrogance that Sammy had going on here.
Yeah, especially when they've been teasing lately. I mean, not very subtle ways, that Adrian Neville was going to become more arrogant, saying, "I'll defend NXT. This is my house. I'm the champion. I'm the only one who can defend NXT." You know, the circumstances in which he retained the title last time. So they're laying the groundwork, and here Sami Zayn comes in with this promo, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to hold you to that, and you better not get used to that championship much longer, because I'm going to be swooping and take." Like, what? I mean, Sammy, I get that you're human and you're frustrated, but I think this is dialing the notch, forward just a little bit too much.
Yep.
So, great contentions there.
I'm glad that we had a lot of the same opinions here. It just happened that I had to be the catalyst to kind of bring it up in order for you to say anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I normally, dude, I love playing devil's advocate against your points, trying to look at an alternative viewpoint, but there's really not much room to work with here, because when you look at what NXT tried to establish with a lot of these stories, and then what they ended up doing here this week.
Yeah, I think it's really just a matter of this was just a not poorly, but less well-written episode than usual.
Yeah, and you know what? Because NXT is usually so fabulous, like, I'm not even that angry about it.
Right.
I'm just hoping that this isn't a tone that continues forward.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yep. 100%. All right. Do we want to get into our actual review now?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
I mean, we practically talked about every segment except for like 2 already.
Yeah, that's so true. So I guess up next, what's left of our NXT review. So how did we open this show up?
With the Ascensions versus the All-Americans. And by the way, for those of you that have no clue why I refer to them as the All-Americans, it's exclusively because Jason Jordan is a former collegiate athlete, and I think there's a possibility that he might actually be a former college All-American. So in my brain, it works.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, not really much to say about this match. This is like a glorified Ascension squash match of old.
I don't even know how glorified I would call it, dude. This was just a straight up, like, the Ascension dominated from bell to bell.
Yeah, the only offense, if you even want to call it that the All-Americans got, was Jason Jordan with the repeated waistlock takedowns in the early goings of the match on Victor. But that really didn't translate into anything for the All-Americans. Yeah, the Ascension picked them apart. And I like how, they've got this storyline going with Itami, but they're still, running roughshod over the tag team division. So at any point, they could easily be written back into the NXT Tag Team Championship picture. So for that, I'd say good stuff. And
this right here is where NXT wins points with me, as opposed to kind of the discussion that we just had about the things that they did wrong.
Right.
I absolutely love that they had this match, because to me, the Ascension were starting to look human. Between the Hideo Itami being able to take them out 2-on-1 and get them out of the ring at his debut, losing the tag titles, losing their rematch, it really was starting to feel like maybe the Ascension weren't unbeatable anymore. And you could even tell, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, maybe it's just the innate character that they're going forward with, but I feel like the All-Americans had a little bit of an extra hitch in their step tonight. Like, they had that little extra swag kind of going on. Like, they were a little bit more confident, a little more cocky, arrogant. Like, they weren't afraid of the Ascension tonight. And they should have been, and the Ascension proved that, and they really reasserted their dominance over the tag division tonight, and I loved it.
I loved how you said that too, Ashton, because I would love if the narrative going forward is maybe teams feel more confident stepping in the ring with the Ascension given their problems with Itami, only to be reminded, no, you're still the little dogs in our yard.
And you know what that does too? That doesn't just make the Ascension look better, it also makes Itami look better, because he's standing up to them.
Yeah. When one lone man is standing up to a team like the Ascension, it tells all those other tag teams, hey, if one guy, can take it to these guys, then what are we doing wrong? Let's go out there and let's get the job done. To put it another way, they're starting to figure out, 1 is less than 2, 2 is the same as 2, we can do this. So, I like it. I like where they're going with it. And you know what? Again, the Ascension wins. And not only do they win decisively. So their credibility is being protected. Again, they can be multifaceted. You know, they're doing the stuff with Itami, but getting wins like this, they can easily be written back into the championship picture. It's good stuff all around, man. So I've got nothing else to say. And if you don't either, we can move on.
Yeah, it was, like I said, as many flaws as I feel as though I need to point out with NXT, they still do so much stuff, just details, little tiny things that most people don't even think about. And I mean, honestly, John, did you even think about what I was pointing out here?
Absolutely not. I think that was a great point.
And it's just little things that I just noticed that really make me appreciate how into detail NXT's writers can be when they really put their minds to something. And again, it's one of those things where I don't even know if they tried. I don't even know if this whole kind of Jason Jordan, Ty Dillinger being more confident going against the Ascension thing was intentional. But whether it was intentional or not, it happened, and in my mind, it worked.
Yeah, there you go.
So, up next was Parker versus Breeze. We already did briefly talk about this. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I really think this is a demotion for Tyler Breeze, and that's disheartening. It was a nice back-and-forth match, a renewal of their rivalry, one of the earliest rivalries when I started watching NXT, Parker photobombing Breeze's selfies and stuff, except now they're both heels. The result's still the same. Tyler Breeze is infinitely superior, and that's all I care to say about that.
Well, I can't even really agree that they're both heels, because, I mean, judging from the crowd reaction and kind of the way that he was booked, is really starting to feel like NXT and the NXT writers have embraced Tyler Breeze as a babyface.
Yeah, it'll be funny and interesting, like where they'll go when Mojo Rawley is quote unquote rehabilitated and starts going after Breeze, because are they going to paint Breeze in a more sympathetic light? Are they going to want the fans to rally around Mojo?
It felt like they were painting him in a sympathetic light in this match. CJ Parker was really taking it to him tonight.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's part of why I had a problem with this, is because Breeze, I'm just so used to him whipping people's butts so easily and getting a freaking beauty shot out of nowhere, and it just didn't happen tonight. I mean, it did, but it took a heck of a lot longer to happen tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And you're talking, Breeze has easily gotten off on guys I think far more capable than Parker. I mean, one name that immediately comes to mind, Justin Gabriel.
Yeah.
And the like. So, yeah, really a weird booking of this match, but Breeze does get the win. Honestly, I don't care what this crap with Mojo Rawley. I'd be much more interested in hearing conversations with Tyler Breeze and NXT Championship in the same sentence. Hopefully we get back there soon. So
I think that we will get back there, but not until probably 2015.
Yeah, I agree with you at this point. If it keeps going at this trajectory, I wholeheartedly agree with you. So we'll see what happens.
All right. After the match, Breeze just kind of slowly walks his way up the ramp while he's keeping up the whole taking selfies thing. Mojo kind of stares him down, and then Breeze just kind of laughs it off, and he starts like rotating his arm around like, ooh, my shoulder hurts, like making fun of Mojo. So even in a scenario where Breeze just got off of a match and Mojo's fresh, Breeze still manages to have just so much more charisma than Mojo could ever just imagine having.
I know, right?
So up next, speaking of lack of charisma, we got a Titus O'Neil interview. He said that he's going to abuse Neville's body, damage his mind, and take his NXT championship. And talking to the new interviewer girl, who is not Devin Taylor, he says that she is lucky to be there because she's going to be able to witness the crowning of this show being renamed to NXT ITUS champion.
You get it, Ashton? You get it? He spelled Titus.
Yeah, John, I get it.
Okay.
Thanks so much for the tutorial, Doctor.
But, yeah, this promo sucked. Titus O'Neil sucks. No.
I'm going to say this, though, John. As much as Titus O'Neil does suck, I feel like this promo really did a good job of hiding how much he sucks.
I can agree with that.
Because this promo wasn't horrible by any means. This promo allowed him to kind of do the old spelling gimmick that he used to do on Raw. This promo It wasn't great by any means, but I don't think that it was cringeworthy like most Titus O'Neil promos are. So
Yeah,
it's a step
definitely.
forward in the right direction.
And NXT, it has that weird quality, doesn't it? Where like even the worst of the worst aren't at their absolute worst when they come here.
Well,
So
I mean, I call it the Brodus Clay factor.
yeah, there you go.
Or should I call it the Tyrus factor now that he's on TNA?
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Oh man. So yeah, nothing else to say about this Titus O'Neil promo. We can move on unless you have anything else you want to say.
No. Up next, we got a Baron Corbin vignette. It's the same thing as last time. It's the whole people like me, people like you, people like me have to take people like you out, all this stuff. Really heelish. We discussed how little sense this makes in our probably like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago episode of NXT TWitWoW. So I don't know. It's kind of disheartening that they're trying to turn him into a heel, or if they're even trying. Maybe they just accidentally aired this instead of a newer version. Maybe they were like, yeah, show that Baron Corbin vignette, and they were like, oh, you mean? And then rather than giving the guy a chance to answer, he was just like, yeah, that one. And they ended up showing the wrong one, and they wanted to show a new one when it was just the same one. Or maybe I'm just overthinking this whole thing, and they want him to be a heel, which is even more confusing to me.
Right. I don't know where they're going with Baron Corbin as far as these vignettes. Again, we already really picked him apart. I just want to keep seeing him in the ring and see how he progresses from there. Nothing more at this time to say than that.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're counting the number of moves that Baron Corbin uses in the ring, screw you. Dude, I absolutely hate people that... I saw somebody on Reddit be like, oh yeah, I just wish he'd use more than 4 moves in the ring. And I'm like, screw you, buddy. He is a developmental superstar who is trying to get a gimmick over where he is a killer. Killers don't know how to use moves. Killers just know how to kill.
Ashton, that's just it though. Like, if anybody is seriously criticizing his in-ring work already, when we really haven't even seen that much, first of all.
All we've seen is squash matches, first of all.
Exactly. Second of all, even if he had 15-minute clinics, with his mentality, he's not thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to chain wrestle the crap out of this guy. No, he's thinking, what moves are going to put him away the quickest? Because I just want to feast on my prey here. I just want to get the victory.
Exactly.
He's a competitor of, I think, urgency and efficacy, not showmanship and I'm just going to shove all my moves in your face. Yeah. So, yeah, screw those guys. I'm going to co-sign with you on that because I can't believe people are already doing that crap.
I know. That's exactly the thought I have. I cannot believe people are already going down this route. And, yeah, I literally just saw it on the NXT Reddit thread, and it's just like, wow, people are pathetic sometimes.
He hasn't even been around long enough for my coffee to stop brewing in the pot, much less me having a cup of coffee, an actual cup of it. So I don't know where people are coming from, but that's all I can say about that.
Okay, so up next was the Vaudevillains versus Team Thick. Vaudevillains, of course, being Simon Gotch and Aiden English. Team Thick being Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. And before I actually do some analysis here, and yes, Alex Riley, it's analysis, not analyst. Gotch and English have a simultaneous punch sequence that they do, and as soon as they got finished doing it, the crowd responded with, that was manly chants, which was pretty cool. But as far as my actual analysis goes, Team Thick is really impressive, and especially Buddy Murphy, who you and I both knew was going to be good coming in because of the promo that he cut, and I went a little bit further and I did some research and read some YouTube comments, and apparently he was a total badass in Australia. And like between the power deadlift vertical suplex last week and some of the stuff that he did this week, I am blown away by this guy's ability. And I gotta say, Wesley Blake even did some impressive stuff tonight. He did a springboard crossbody, which I was not expecting from someone of his girth. And yeah, it's just really good stuff. And the Vaudevillains do end up winning, but this is one of those examples on NXT where the more impressive team doesn't necessarily need a win in order to look more impressive.
Certainly agree with you, Ashton. I really hope to see more of Team Thick in the future. Buddy Murphy is a beast. first of all, with the stuff that he does. I love how coordinated Team Thick is, right down, to the attire. Showed some great double team maneuvering in this match. Speaking of sound tag team wrestling, I also have to credit the Vaudevillains. Aiden English in particular did a great job of cutting the ring in half when Buddy Murphy was trying to get tags in, at least twice. He was great about coming in there and cutting him off, great, well, I guess heelish tag teams, even though the crowd is so into their gimmick and what they're about. So yeah, really enjoyed this match. And for me, as a big time Vaudevillains fan, I noticed that they've changed their tag team finisher. It's no longer the rolling senton and then the senton off the top, the Green Bay plunge, I guess that Gage does, and then the senton by English. It's now an uppercut to the back of the head and just a really fast spinning neck breaker called Gentleman's Congress. So, interesting stuff from the Vaudevillains.
I like it. I mean, I don't know if I'm ready to say that they are a heel tag team yet, but it's starting to feel like that's kind of the direction that they want to go. They want these guys to be heels.
They want these guys to be heels, but because they are throwbacks in this certain way, and the crowd just has such fun with it, like when they came out to the ring, you get the usual chance of, put your dukes up, and then, that whole thing. And then, as you said, with the whole double punch,
that was manly, yeah.
That was manly. The crowd is having way too much fun with this. This is going to be a case where I agree with you. From the music to the demeanor and even commentary talking about the Vaudevillains, they want these guys to be heels. I completely agree with you. I don't think the crowd will permit it, though. I think it's going to backfire in their face, so they better be careful.
Completely agree. And to me, what's beautiful about that is that I think that both of these guys are good enough to know that if something heelish isn't working and they can't get the heel stuff over, they know to kind of change it up, to kind of audible on the fly and start doing their stuff that they know got them over in the first place.
Exactly. I mean, look at the Ascension. By all accounts, a heel team, especially what they're doing. Yeah, with Hideo Itami. But look at what Connor did tonight after he stomped a mud hole in, I want to say Ty Dillinger, and then the crowd is chanting, one more ya, and he obliges.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think it's more important to just go with that flow rather than sticking to maybe some pre-coordinated plan and having it all tank.
Yep.
So, yeah, I really like that. Completely
agree with you. Anything else left to say on here?
Absolutely not. Let's move on.
Man, we are on the same page for this NXT review. I'm digging it. Up next, we had match of the night by far, the only match probably that we haven't actually talked about yet, and rightfully so, because I'm glad we saved the best for not necessarily last, but definitely most relevant. Bayley versus Sasha Banks. As soon as Sasha hits the ring, we've got Sasha's ratchet, no, she's not chance. And the whole match, just the flow, the psychology. I freaking love these women.
Isn't it great to say that, Ashton? On a Pride where we said that it wasn't one of their strongest episodes, who takes the mantle and really runs with it? The women's division.
Yep.
It feels so freaking good to say that, but to stay on point here, Bayley comes out, Sasha comes out. This is a very physical matchup. That was the first word that came to my mind.
That is an adjective that you're going to use to describe any and all Sasha Banks matches that you ever see.
Definitely, but here's the thing, though, Ashton. It wasn't even so much on Sasha Banks.
And that's what's beautiful about it. Bayley upped her aggression tonight, big time.
Big time. And, just a great back and forth between these two, early on, trying to get the mountain punches, who's going to get controlled there. And then, Bayley quickening the pace. And then, just great stuff. And then the end of the match, for me, was interesting, Ashton, because, and see, this is how much I read into things, which is why I'm a weird guy. She tries going for that scoop slam again, which is the exact same mistake she made against Charlotte. And Charlotte countered, got the net breaker, and got natural selection. This time, she goes for it. Sasha, able to roll through, gets the backbreaker, the backstabber, into the bank statement, and she gets a submission win. Bayley needs to stop going to that well and maybe refining her game a little bit, because that maneuver has cost her twice now, from what I've noted. So
brilliant observation on your part. I did not pick up on that. I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I'm like, no, it cost her again, because she likes, I guess, the scoop. I don't know what she is trying to set up for, what she's trying to do, but that's cost her twice, and ironically, it's cost her from the two women who know each other so well, and who seem to be on a collision course.
Oh, man, that's deep.
Crazy, right?
It's crazy. It is.
So, yeah, I mean, Sasha Banks gets the win. And you even heard me, Ashton, because you and I, we talk to each other as these matches are going on, and, we give each other our respective reactions. I am so ready for Sasha Banks to step into the limelight and be NXT Women's Champion. And what I love about NXT is they always let their champions take their course, have their run, build up the prestige, build up the meaningfulness of the championships.
It's not like the WWE where Dolph Ziggler is going to have the title from not even a couple hours. It was like 20 minutes and then drop it back to the same guy. Or Rey Mysterio is going to have the title for an hour and then drop it to Cena. Like, they let their champions frickin' settle in. And I think it does, not only does it work wonders for character development, but it works wonders for the prestige of the titles. I honestly believe that the most prestigious title in the WWE right now is the NXT World Heavyweight Championship, because Neville can't be beat. He's taken on NXT guys. He's taken on 3 other guys at the same time. He's taken on WWE guys from the main roster. He can't be beat.
I completely agree with you. And you know what's funny? I'm so glad you brought up Neville, because one point of commentary was he's been champion since February. That's 8 months he's closing in on now, if not already surpassed. It's ridiculous how long they let their world champions, any champions, go on their runs. But to bring it back to the women, I'm glad Charlotte's been able to have her run and everything, but this is probably the first time in quite some time that I have just been itching for a title change, because Sasha has just been at her absolute best, and I think it's about damn time she gets recognized for it. So I'm going to be rooting for her so hard when either the triple threat that you've been theorizing about for some time now, or a one-on-one clash between Sasha Banks and Charlotte occurs, because I'm looking for Sasha Banks to take it all the way.
Absolutely. She is, even though people are finally starting to catch on to how good she is, she's still criminally underrated.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, I don't frequent Reddit as much as you do, but I look at TWitWoW. You and I are regularly active there, and discussion about NXT will happen from time to time, but I don't really see much discussion about the women, especially since Paige left, and B, when there is, it doesn't really seem like women like Sasha are in the conversation. So yeah, but people need to start talking about her more, because she's just that good.
Yeah, she is. Now, don't get me wrong, Charlotte is really good for her experience level. But Sasha is so many leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else at NXT right now. It's embarrassing that the WWE is even thinking about calling up Charlotte before her.
I completely agree. I won't even add any more to that. I would just like to get into the post-match where I said, we got...
Well, no, hang on a second. I just want to add. John, do you remember the one match Charlotte had against somebody that couldn't carry her? Her match against Emma?
Yeah, I think I do remember that match.
It was so bad.
Right.
And I don't think Emma's a slouch in the ring by any means, but she's no Natalya, Sasha, Bayley. Like, she's not on that level.
Right, clearly.
Sasha, on the other hand, she's had plenty of solid matches with Emma. She's had plenty of solid matches with everyone on the female roster in NXT. She, if I recall correctly, she's even had a decent match with Alicia Fox, man. Like, she can work with any, but she's so much. And again, this is kind of where I come back to. Charlotte's not bad. She's very good, especially when you take into account how long she's been doing it. But Charlotte is leaps and bounds better than her.
Yeah, Sasha really is in a class of her own right now, and that's where, this really is a case of person to have yet to hold the championship still doing incredibly fine. Because, Sasha, I just think, is untouchable right now. And speaking of untouchable, that's even more so because she's gotten some more firepower on her side. Because in the post-match, we see that she continues the beatdown on the back of Bayley and really putting the boots to her. And Becky Lynch runs down to the ring to make the save. Sasha, of course, quickly gets out of there. Becky Lynch, she slowly picks Bayley up, hugs her, looks like she's going to comfort her, be there for her friend. And then Bayley goes, to confront Sasha, standing by the ropes. And Becky Lynch clobbers her in the back of the head with the clothesline. Ashton, we've got BFFs Incarnation 2, so there you go.
I think they might just be called BSB this time.
What would that stand for?
Becky and Sasha Banks.
Oh, they're beautiful. Beautiful. And you know what? This is where NXT, because you said they did something that won points with you, like you said, the little subtleties, little things that they do. This is where they win points with me, because a week prior we were just talking about their sense of continuity being so much stronger than the main roster, and they followed through on it.
Yep.
Becky Lynch is now aligned with Sasha Banks. And you know what? It didn't go wrong because we saw what the end result was. Charlotte's come into her own. She did wonderful. But I do hope that that BSB, I really like that. We're sticking with that for TWitWoW at least. That it does stay a two-person unit. One, because the letters just work out perfectly. And two, because I really want to see female group.
You said the letters work out perfectly, and my mind immediately started thinking, who else could fit? Becky, Sasha, and Bayley.
There you go.
That could be the BSB.
And Alex Riley even posed the question, when is Bayley going to learn that you can't be nice to everybody around here?
Well, that's why I said it, because they kind of teased it a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but maybe that is what is going to kind of culminate at the triple threat. Maybe that's when Sasha wins the title, Charlotte gets called up to Raw for what reason I don't know, and Bayley realizes that she can't continue down the path of Girl Scouts and cookies.
There you go. I love it. Let's do it.
All right. Do we have anything else to add here?
Absolutely not. Let's move on.
All right. Up next was a backstage segment. Carmella on the phone talking to we don't know who about how she made that chick tap out last week, old Blue Pants. And Enzo and Cass walk in. Enzo tells Carmella that he got her a match with John.
Emma!
Yep. So we're going to get Carmella versus Emma sometime in the near future. I'm assuming probably next week, but I don't want to guarantee that because anytime I guarantee something, it ends up being like 2 weeks later. And then Enzo and Cass kind of have some banter about how he's gotten Carmella these 2 matches and Carmella's not kind of... how do I put this, John?
He doesn't really seem too grateful in the way that Enzo would like her to be.
Yeah, she's not really responding in the way that he expected.
Yeah.
She's responding to Cass pretty well.
Dude, I don't think it's going to happen, but I just have to bring back fears that you and I expressed openly, I want to say last week or 2 weeks ago. I really hope these two don't break up over her. I really don't. I'm kind of worried about it.
Honestly, dude, I'm beginning to think that they might actually use this to debut her and very, very quickly after debuting her, turn her heel. Because she is a natural heel. And I think they're going to use her trying to split up Enzo and Cass to make Enzo and Cass's bond stronger, and they kind of boot her to the curb and she goes heel.
Dude, that would be amazing. Do it.
I think that's what they're going to do, though, because like Enzo and Cass are buddy-buddy, but Cass also isn't really taking it seriously. Like he's not really reciprocating with Carmella. Like she's kind of coming on to him and she's giving him these kisses on the cheeks and all this stuff, and he's kind of like he's more proud of it because of Enzo's reaction than the fact that he's got Carmella all up in his business.
Yeah, he seems pretty aloof to any other kind of circumstances, like,
right.
It's gonna damage my friendship with my bro or whatever. And
yeah, I guess it's like one of those things where like, if they wanted to really get over the idea that he's going, like, he is into her as much as she is into him, they would do stuff like having him stare at her while she walks off into the distance. But as soon as she leaves, he looks at Enzo to see that look of like, oh, like he didn't get any kind of award or reward or whatever you want to call it for getting to the match. And it's like he cares more about getting one up on Enzo than he cares about getting with Carmella.
Right. So I like where your head is going with this, and I hope that NXT creative would agree with you, because to me, Enzo and Big Cass are such a hot act. I would not want to see him derailed this way, but I don't want to go any further than that because it's purely speculative. Let's move on.
I don't think Enzo and Big Cass are going to break up on NXT. I think they're gonna have their run on NXT, get called up to the main roster, and have a really solid run up there before they break up there.
Yeah, definitely.
So, up next, we had our main event of the evening, our boring main event of the evening, Titus O'Neil versus Adrian Neville. And the only reason it's boring is because Titus O'Neil was on offense 90% of this match.
Yeah, see, but that just really revealed to me something interesting, Ashton, because with his match with Sami Zayn, it was pretty much the same thing. Like, Titus O'Neil was primarily on offense.
But that match was better than this. That match had some, sympathy going into it, whereas with this, it just felt like Neville was biding his time until he could get an opening to hit the red arrow.
Exactly. With Sammy, given his win-loss record, or at least how they really portray it and sell it, not to mention, his stature and how he sells and the crowds, all the elements came together for a perfect storm to probably give Titus O'Neil his best match that he'll ever have in his career. This, however, I was bored the entire time, and I'll even say irritated towards the end with how easily Adrian Neville was able to get the red arrow off on Titus O'Neil. It's like, I'm going to slap him in the face, I'm going to get both my boots in his face, and that's going to disorient him enough that I'm going to be able to get on the top rope, get the perfect balance, do all those rotations, and connect with the red arrow. Just really kind of annoyed me a little bit. So that, honestly, there's nothing more I can say about this match. I just thought it was a bore fest. Then after the match, he's celebrating, and we have the Sami Zayn promo that you and I agree was a bit heelish. But seeing as how he's confronted Adrian Neville already, Ashton, do you think that changes your timetable at all, or do you still think that their match is finally going to happen at the next NXT Live special?
For sure.
All right, then. Yeah, I would have to agree with you. They're using that whole narrative, Sami Zayn, can't win. The big one, again, I likened it a few weeks ago to Rock and Chris Jericho's feud back in 2001 over the WCW title. And that's honestly where Jericho kind of had a heel turn, because he won the WCW title, but then he lost it so soon after that he just snapped on The Rock, and that's when he officially really became a heel and started their legendary rivalry. So I don't know. With Sami Zayn's tone and everything, A, is he going to beat Neville? And B, if he doesn't, would he turn heel? And C, if he does, is he going to hold on to it long enough where he'd stay a face, or maybe he would lose it soon after? And then that would just be another cosmic kick in the nuts to Sami Zayn. So I'm curious where this will all go.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say it's a convoluted storyline, but it's starting to feel like they are trying to do everything in their power to stretch out Sami Zayn not winning the big one for so long that it's almost starting to get old.
And that's what I worried about, Ashton. You've got to be careful with acts that are as hot as Sami Zayn, or I remember a big debate at the time, when Jeff Hardy was on his chase for the WWE title, or, for the diehard TNA fans, when TNA was still, really enjoyable for me, when Samoa Joe was pursuing the world title all that time. You got to be careful when you pull that trigger, because you still want people to care. And there's going to come a point where they're not going to want to take this ride with Sammy anymore. So they better resolve this soon. Because I'll say this for me personally. I don't want to speak for you, Ashton. If hypothetically he would fail to capture it from Adrian Neville at the next live special, regardless of the means he would use to do it.
It would be a heat of the night.
It would be a heat of the night for me, and I would just be like, I'm done. I just don't care. You might as well just put Sammy on the main roster, because this idea that we're keeping him here to win a championship in a chase that I no longer care about is ridiculous.
And I think the thing comes down to, now that we have this format where we know that we're getting a live special every 3 months, it's gotten to the point that we know that if we don't get what we want at this one, they're going to just drag it out another 3 months until the next one. And it's getting old, because they've been doing it pretty much since the day Sammy walked in the door. And that was over a year ago.
Exactly, dude. You can't keep putting this off. You've got to do it at this next live special, to me, because it doesn't really have much gas left in the tank. And no, I am not going to pull a Mark Henry with this, because I'm serious. There really isn't that much gas left in the tank. So let's hope that they give Sami Zayn the championship. And for me, that concludes this episode of NXT.
Well, I mean, as far as the promo goes, Neville did kind of close out with a bit of a zinger.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of says, Sammy, I'm not too worried about it, because we all know you can't win the big one. Gives him a condescending pat on the shoulder, like, it's okay, buddy. Walks off. Yeah, exactly. Look at that burn. Ooh, burn. So
apply cold water to the burned area. Man, Sammy is going to think of such a good response to that in the shower tonight.
I know, right? He's going to be like, well, yeah, Neville. Well, yeah.
Well, the jerk store called, and they're running out of you.
Oh, my God. I'm actually gonna pocket that one, and I'm not ashamed.
You're gonna use that on your sister.
I am. I so am. Just gonna be like, John, what are you doing? And I'm like, just pull that line out. It's gonna be great. So, with that said, dude, that was NXT, and actually, that little banter was better than the entirety of the main event, save for the post-match segment. So, if there's anything else you want to say, we can move on to our next segment.
This NXT was like the equivalent of the 2013 Survivor Series pay-per-view. It was pretty good throughout the whole thing, and then the main event happened and everyone fell asleep.
Exactly.
Does everyone remember the main event I'm referring to? It was Randy Orton versus The Big Show, and nobody cared.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, moving on, high spots and low shots. And you know what? My low shot is going to be Mojo Rawley.
He didn't do anything.
That's precisely the point. You come out like a sourpuss, simpering there like, ooh.
Not only did he come out, but he abandoned his life's motto. He wasn't hype.
He wasn't hyped. You look like a damn sourpuss. You're simmering the entire time watching Tyler Breeze. And then when the match is over, he goes up the ramp, mocks your shoulder, and just reminds you with one fluid motion that he is better than you in every way.
And not only did he go out there, but Tyler Breeze gave zero craps. He still ended up beating CJ Parker, despite the distraction.
Because I'm in such an a-hole mood and a troll mood, Mojo Rawley is so bad that despite all the setbacks and despite all the budget cuts, if he was to pick up a phone and call TNA's main office, they'd answer with,
not interested.
Not interested. Click. You're horrible, Mojo. You're horrible. Who's your low shot?
Titus O'Neil.
Yes, because everybody knows loser is spelled Titus.
I don't think in that order, but okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pretty much we know what the justification is for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was talking earlier on and then hitting on that interviewer girl, and I mean, he ain't getting none tonight.
That's so true. Oh.
He was thinking if he won that match, he was going to get to hit that later, but his hopes are dashed.
Oh, dude, between the jerk store and that, we got to wrap this up because you're getting on a roll and I won't be able to contain myself. So, me with my high spot, it's a bit more difficult this week for a high spot. So, you know what? I'm going to go with Sasha Banks.
Oh, you stole mine.
I'm glad I did. Deal with it. Yeah, now we got Batista up in here. So, yeah, had match of the night with Bayley. Wins decisively with the submission victory, has a new ally in Becky Lynch, and with this victory over the old number one contender, she has to assert herself as the new one. Ashton, if anybody had a beautiful hand to play at the table, it seems to be Sasha Banks right now. Everything seems to be aligning for her perfectly to strike and finally get that championship.
All right, well, since you took my number one choice for high spot, I'm going to take the slightly less personal but still just as effective high spot, the Ascension, who reasserted their dominance tonight despite the fact that they have looked incredibly human previously.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I mean, this was a match to remind everybody who the Ascension is. Again, I like the brilliance of it because it could create a multifacetedness for the Ascension, put them in the title picture if they want to while continuing the beat with Hideo.
This was a match that proved that they are indeed still the Ascension, and that just because they lost the tag team titles, they haven't magically transformed into the Descension.
There you go. Oh, man. All right. So with that said, we don't have any more segments because this is NXT TWitWoW and we're baller like that. So
30-second hot seat. Just
never! Anyway, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Discuss on Tweetoff. What do you think of the women of NXT? What do you think about Sami Zayn laying down the gauntlet in a very heelish manner? Talk to us. And it's pay-per-view weekend. This Saturday, we have got preview and predictions for Hell in a Cell. I can't wait to talk about so many matches on this card. And then Sunday, it is Hell in a Cell 2014 live reactions, where I will be screaming at the top of my lungs for Randy Orton to put John Cena down for good. Cannot wait to do this with my cohort and commentary here. We will see you then, guys.